So briefly, NextEra Energy is North America's leader in wind and solar. We're also a leader in battery storage in a couple of different ISOs and looking to break in SBP as my colleagues here. What are we here for? Energy storage, if you look at the top of the slide, it might be a bit tough to read, but the industry estimates that almost 5 gigawatts of utility scale storage and 2 gigawatts of behind the meter will be installed by 2022. This is a $5 billion market opportunity and is only expected to grow. Why is that? So if you look at the graph here, again, hard to read, but we'll get into the details with the panelists in the Q&A. But these are the different use cases for utility scale and behind the meter storage. There are a ton of use cases, a ton of different things you can do to stack value with batteries. And that's what we're going to get into, and that's what we think customers and others in the room should be thinking of is what can storage do for you? So I'm going to take a quick poll. How many people in here either have or own a smartphone? By show of hands. Okay, almost all the room. The first iPhone was released in 2007. Probably didn't take real adoption until thereafter. 10, 12 years ago, smartphones didn't exist. All of a sudden, your iPhone that's in your pocket can do almost anything that you want it to do, the least of which is making phone calls. We see energy storage as being a similar type of application where we're in the infancy stages, we're seeing projects come online, but there's going to be a huge boon of energy storage projects and use cases going forward. And that's what this is meant to show. So you had 0.8 gigawatts, under a gigawatt of storage in 2016. The industry is working on different stacking applications, different use cases to kind of boost the value of storage for the cost, which is coming down. And then later on, ultimately having it be a longer duration, sort of a peaker style utility resource, much like a peaker plant, combined cycle or other. So we'll get into some of the use cases with our panelists here, but that's what we need to be thinking about as an industry, is there are so many things that batteries can do. We need to hone in on what is right for you and for your utility or use. So the next two slides and my last two are kind of stolen from SBP with their approval. But you can see this is the 2018 generator interconnection queue by capacity and fuel. What do we want to note? Well, the thing that stands out is the bar on the left, which is wind. There's tons and tons of wind in the queue to the tune of 64,000 megawatts plus. The interesting thing is the battery, the third line on there, which is the battery storage requests. So almost 3,000 megawatts right now, and probably more as of today, in the SBP queue. And why is that? Well, there's a couple of reasons, which really stems from the influx of wind and solar and the intermittent resources, along with different use cases that a standalone battery can provide. And my final slide is, again, taken from SBP. These are the challenges that SBP is trying to solve. Ramping events, wind and load forecast error, capacity issues. So these are the things that we think batteries can be used for and can solve, and we'll talk a little bit more about that today. So with that, we'll start with our first panelist. We'll have Matt come up and talk through some of his applications. And again, please feel free to ask questions after the panelists go, but be thinking about them as they speak. Thank you.